We're back with Dr. Damion Martins here at Atlantic Sports Health, part of the Atlantic Health System. And we're talking about resistance training with young athletes. And Dr. Martin shared on our previous segment that, it's valid and important, and the research, promotes and encourages resistance training for young athletes. And I know there's a lot more research that talks about bone calcification and osteoporosis. Why don't you share a little bit about what you've shared?
Well, thanks, Bill. A very important topic, and one which is something that's very close to our heart here. At Atlantic Sports Health, we see a tremendous amount of athletes at all age groups. Clearly, a significant portion of our athletes are female athletes, and they come in and there's a big concern. Parents have concerns, athletes have concerns about bone strength, bone density. And I want to share in the next few minutes the value of resistance training and weight-bearing exercises in terms of bone strength. A lot of people forget this, but especially in female athletes, your peak bone mass is developing in that 16 to sort of 20-year-old range. And so we really want to make sure that they're doing everything from the diet and exercise components that they can to develop peak bone mass early on. Because after age 20 or so, just like most of us, everything starts to go downhill. Yeah. And so you want to maintain that high peak bone mass.
Can you define peak bone mass, just so our audience can understand?
Think of your bone as a living organ. And believe it or not, every 8 or so years, the bone cells completely turn over. So the cells that you have in your bone today are not the same ones that will be there in 8 years.
You get a whole new bone in 8 years.
Whole new bone, turnover. Wow. And so what you want to do is you want to fill that bucket up with as much bone as possible in that time frame. After age 20 or so, and through nutrition and through poor exercise, we start to develop osteoporosis, where the bone gets weaker and weaker and weaker. What studies show is that calcium and vitamin D have very little impact, much less than we thought, in terms of helping bone to stay strong. A lot of the large studies now show that calcium and vitamin D probably have very little, maybe 1% to 2% effect on protecting bone from fracture. Some of it's genetics, but clearly weight-bearing exercise, resistance training, strength training has a significant impact. So a lot of people forget that. We want to see that not only in the young athlete when they're developing peak bone mass, but also in the older athlete, the elderly, to sort of maintain strength and maintain bone mass. So very important aspect.
So this window that we have up until about 20, and in these ages, these adolescent ages, as we grow from 7, 8 to 20, describe the details around that opportunity. So what's happening when we're strength training to the bone, and why is that window limited to 20, age 20, 22?
A lot of it's hormone dependent, and we've seen that in studies looking at female athletes with eating disorders. Obviously, they're calorie restrict, they have less estrogen, they don't have enough calcium and vitamin D, and without that cocktail of hormones, the minerals, and exercise, the calcium and vitamin D don't get deposited in the bone, and the bone doesn't become hard. So you'll have bone, but it's weak bone. And that's why it's so important that you need all three. You need the hormones, you need the basic exercise to stimulate the bone to do this, and then you need those vitamins and minerals to do the job.
Well said. So young athletes out there, so important to be involved in a structured program that's done safely to maximize your bone calcification and strength and development at these young ages. So as you get older, you have a better chance of having healthy bones and a less chance of osteoporosis.
Absolutely, Bill. It's key.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Damion. Really appreciate that. Take this information, guys, apply it, and again, make sure you're in a safe environment and you're going to take your game to the next level.